Today, we are diving into a concept that could completely rewrite the rules of naval warfare. It's called Project Poseidon, and it's a radical new doctrine designed to solve one of the biggest and, frankly, most dangerous problems the modern Navy is facing right now. And that really is the central question, isn't it? See, the US Navy is making a huge strategic shift to something called distributed maritime operations. Now, what that means is, instead of grouping ships together in a big, easy-to-spot carrier strike group, they're spreading them out, way out, across huge stretches of ocean to make them much, much harder to find and target. But here's the catch. To stay hidden, they have to go dark. We're talking near total radio silence. So, you can see the problem. This new silent fleet idea is fantastic for survivability, but it creates a massive command and control nightmare. You have to assume that in a real conflict, the enemy is going to try to take out your satellites. So, when that happens and your ships can't talk to each other, how on earth does a commander know which ships are ready for a fight and which ones are critically low on supplies? They're essentially flying blind. This comparison really lays it all out. We're shifting from a model where everyone's huddled together, constantly chatting via satellite, to one where individual ships are basically lone wolves, deliberately cutting themselves off. Now, the old way was powerful, for sure, but also incredibly vulnerable. The new way? It makes the fleet much harder to kill, but it creates this dangerous information vacuum at the exact moment a commander needs total clarity. So how do you solve this paradox? How do you maintain command without compromising silence? Well, this is exactly where Project Poseidon enters the picture. It's a blockchain-based system, and it's designed to give the entire fleet a single, shared, and completely unforgeable source of truth, even when they can't communicate. The core idea here is a massive philosophical shift from what the source calls reported readiness to verified readiness. Think about it. A captain can radio in and say, yeah, we're mission capable. But that's subjective, right? Poseidon gets rid of that. It replaces it with objective cryptographic proof. It's no longer about what a ship says it has, it's about what its own internal, unhackable ledger proves it has.
Okay, so how do they share this ledger while staying totally silent? Through something they call a sea mesh. Just picture two destroyers passing in the night. For a split second, they shoot a burst of data at each other with a secure laser, instantly syncing their ledgers. Or maybe a stealth drone flies between ships, acting like a digital courier, physically carrying the updated blockchain from one ship to the next. The entire fleet status gets updated without a single radio broadcast that could give away their position. All right, now we get to the absolute heart of the system, what's called the 147 doctrine. This is how POSEIDON actually tokenizes the physics of a warship. It turns its real-world capabilities and resources into digital assets on a blockchain. It's pretty wild. At the very, very top of this pyramid, you have one single number, the Trident Index. The best way to think about this is like a real-time stock price for the entire Navy's combat power. It's a live, constantly updated number that's calculated from every single ship's fuel, ammunition, and operational status. It gives leadership an undeniable mathematical measurement of the fleet's total strength at any given moment. So where does that one big number come from? Well, it's derived from 4 foundational pillars. But here's the twist. These aren't resources you can just count like missiles or gallons of fuel. No, these are authority tokens. They're like digital keys that grant the very right to wage war in a specific domain. A commander literally cannot order forces into a fight without possessing the correct token. This system completely redefines what command even means. You want to fight on the surface? Your task force has to possess the PIL_surf token. You need to send a submarine out on a critical mission. That sub must first prove it's ready, and by doing so, it generates a PIL_sub token. Poseidon transforms this abstract concept of authority into a provable, tangible, digital asset. Okay, so the next logical question is, how does a ship actually get one of those powerful authority tokens? Well, it has to spend resources, and those resources come from these 7 vital sectors of sustainment. You can think of these as the utility tokens that represent the cold, hard, physical reality of the ship. And this is where the genius of the system really shines. These tokens aren't just lines of code. They are directly wired into the ship's onboard sensors. Dollar Arsenal tokens are minted only when missiles are physically loaded into their launch cells. Dollar Reactor tokens represent the actual fuel levels in the tanks. So to be certified as combat ready, a ship has to prove it by spending these real-world resource tokens. It creates this unbreakable link between digital authority and physical reality. So that's the theory.
let's see how this all comes together in some real-world scenarios, because this is where the true power of an automated, trust-based system really becomes clear. Okay, first up, let's take a non-combat example. A submarine needs to be certified for a long, dangerous patrol, but it has to do it without sending a single detectable report back to its home base. So the sub's internal sensors verify its torpedoes, its reactor output, its life support systems, the whole shebang. The system then automatically burns the corresponding resource tokens, $arsenal for the weapons, $reactor for power, and $life for the crew. That transaction then triggers a smart contract that automatically mints the PIL_sub authority token. And just like that, the sub is now cryptographically proven to be ready. Readiness is no longer a checklist somebody fills out. It's a verifiable transactional cost. All right, now for a high-intensity combat scenario. A vampire attack, and that's real naval slang for when you have multiple anti-ship missiles screaming towards you. A destroyer's Aegis combat system detects the incoming threats and immediately, automatically, engages. As two interceptor missiles launch from their vertical cells, the ship's onboard sensors detect the event. The ship's wallet instantly burns 2 of its arsenal tokens. No human input needed. Now, here's the crucial part. The next time that ship syncs with the C-Mesh network, even if it's just for a millisecond, the entire fleet's shared ledger is updated. Every friendly ship in the area now knows, with mathematical certainty, that this specific destroyer has 2 fewer interceptors than it did a moment ago. And here's the real game changer. A nearby cruiser system sees the first ship's arsenal count drop. It recognizes a new vulnerability in the fleet's defenses and automatically begins to maneuver to cover that ship's defensive sector. Think about that. No human gave an order. No one had to say a word over the radio. That is autonomous, collaborative defense, and it's all based on shared, trusted data. So, what is the ultimate goal here? What does this all lead to? Well, it's not just about having better data. It's about evolving the Navy from a collection of individual ships into a single, cohesive, fighting organism. And you know, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. The project itself lays out a very clear roadmap, starting with simulations and logistics in 2026, and then moving towards full operational capability across the entire Navy by 2030. This is happening. The source document concludes with this incredibly powerful vision. Project Poseidon aims to transform the fleet into a single, sentient, and survivable organism, a collective that can feel, react, and fight as one single entity, even when its individual parts are isolated and can't speak to each other. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty profound and maybe even unsettling question. When warfare begins to run on automated trust, and machines can make these life-or-death tactical decisions in microseconds based on a shared ledger, what then is the role of the human commander?